Hello and welcome to my channel. It's a beautiful day today and I'm able to do the flip through of these two beautiful fabric journals that we've been creating together. It took me probably about 10 days, I would say, to do both of them together, and that's in little spurts of time and quite often late in the evenings. So they're very doable, and of course it's awesome to have a lot of beautiful supplies to work with. I do have a good collection of vintage lace and I use it freely, so I'm always on the hunt for more. And the silk ties, the silk I already had. Most of everything I had, the only thing I decided to purchase were the gold eyelets. And this color here I already had. There seems to be a difference, though, I will tell you, in the quality between the plastic and the metal. The metal just seemed to, I don't know, pull at the fabric and not splay open in the back as good as the plastic ones did. Just saying. So yeah, let me see if I have the package here. I love the colors. They're awesome. And of course I used up all of the gold. But yeah, they're still beautiful. The We Are Memory Keepers ones seem to work the best with the, you know, this guy, whatever that's called, I forget. So let's do some chatting about where we're at. Since my last video, I sewed in the signatures, added the buttons, of course, and then I decorated all of the tags, put some toppers in, did some stamping, and that's about it. So let's open up and go with the first one. This one, just making sure I'm centered and everything. This particular one is now sold and it is spoken for. It's the first one that I came up with and has a various backgrounds of different kinds of muslin and ticking. The other one is all muslin backgrounds. And this one I sewed kind of like the envelopes first as pages and then stuffed them with the batting. Just a different method of doing it. And I would do either one. Again, I wouldn't say one or the other is better. They're both great to work with. I do really like this closure idea though. I'm going to show you in detail. See how the ribbon just kind of slips in between? It sits in between, and the same as on the back. So that I will definitely be doing again. That's when you're putting lace on both sides, and it would just become too bulky with all the padding in the fabric to try and go through the layers on the outside with all that crocheted and vintage lace. So yeah, that's what it looks like. Love it. Very cool. I had not seen that done before. That was just something I thought of. So here we go. Did I give my measurements already? Probably in the very beginning of our series. I think it's 8.5 by 5 1/4, the pages completed. And 5 pages, so 20-page sides decorated. And the outside has your layered up vintage doilies and this beautiful brooch, vintage brooch, that I just glued on with Fabri-Tac, and it's staying very nicely. I just put a thin amount on though, so that it wouldn't really saturate into the fabric. And let's go inside. So here we've got several different laces going on, different textures. Of course, I used Sheila's Embellished Sari Textiles, all in the red. And as I mentioned before, oh, I thought I had a little tag I could demo with. These are all open, so you could easily put something else in here. If the recipient is watching, she can, you know, add to it, and that will give you more writing space. And then I've got these beautiful fiber toppers. Those came from Russia. And I just did a little bit of stamping on the back. I used Graphic 45's Gilded Lily set 1 and set 3 just a couple of stamps this time and just use them repeatedly. Here is a doily, vintage lace doily. That is actually just a flap. And then some beautiful vintage applique on here. Plain page. And turning it over, we've got another tag made out of some ticking fabric and vintage lace that was a part of a larger doily that I cut down and just attached onto here. The gold eyelet and some vintage lace topper, and then just stamped lightly on the back. Goes into this beautiful silk doily pocket. These just feel amazing. Amazing, they're gorgeous. This, I think, is my favorite tag, for sure, because of the color. I love more of a burgundy red. Just showing you how you can add more into the pockets if you want. And a little bulb pin with a heart charm on it, and some vintage lace as the topper, and stamped on the back as well. Stitched around in red thread. Gorgeous vintage lace here. Love these pieces. And then here we've got a belly band tuck spot that I've got this envelope that I made just out of a digital piece left over from a previous project that I did, and some stamping on the inside. Lots of space for extra journaling. And then this little mini booklet journal. Some vintage lace sewn on here, and just added a few book pages and lined journal pages for interest and extra writing space. And the ribbon, vintage lace and ribbon on the flap there. And then on the right hand side, I love this lace. I have a little bit left and I use it quite sparingly. I just love it. Made a pocket here, and this tag has vintage lace. You could thread a ribbon through here. I just chose not to, but you certainly can. Stamped in the back. And some silk as the topper there. Turning this page, I love this piece, and I love this lace pocket as well. Just going to take it out carefully. And like I showed in my last video, I think this is like meant to be a hanky holder. So you could easily tuck another hanky in there, or a couple of tags. I just included this sugar glittered tag. I did purchase it elsewhere at a vintage market, and it just says "To One I Love." So that can always be reused as well. I kept it in the bag so that the glitter wouldn't spill all over. And then this beautiful Irish lace on this side. And this tag has the pearls and the beads, beautiful beads, stamped on the back, and some fluff. I think I get most of my fiber toppers from an Etsy seller. I think they're on eBay as well. Purple Paper Mountain. And she's excellent, her and her husband. And then we've got the center of the signature here with a beautiful tag, topped with some vintage lace. Again, it's got the pocket here that you can tuck something into. Stamped on the back with the word love. And our little booklet. I added some trim, vintage lace, and tied it with some waxed linen cord, waxed linen thread, and just done some little stamping in the corners here for interest. And there's a lot of writing space in there, and some book page. And then we've got a beautiful vintage postcard here, tied on the side. This is all part of a banner. I think I got like 5 or 6 of these cards together, and so I just cut them apart so I could use them individually, and attached a bulb pin with a little charm that says "Made with Love," stamped it on the back. And then this pocket has vintage lace and a vintage applique in the shape of a rose, and there's a rose on here. This side of the page, we've got beautiful vintage lace and a snippet here, collaged together with a vintage button on the top. And this lovely tag has vintage lace on the top. Sorry about the glare of the sun, but I'll take the sun any day over rain or snow. Beautiful. This is one of my favorite laces. I love it. I think it's actually antique lace. You can just tell by the netting on it. And then here we've got a beautiful pocket made out of, it goes just kind of wrapped around the side here. Open on top and bottom with a vintage applique motif attached over top of the white lace. And this beautiful tag, the shorter pocket, tuck spot, and again the word love. And this beautiful, sweet little postcard. It says, "My Valentine, think of me." It's so adorable and so fragile. I absolutely love it. This is one that's dated 1893. And it goes into this beautiful silk pocket with some beautiful rose applique trim, vintage on the top. We've got another tag, some beautiful lace on the side, some bugle beads here, and I've just done some stamping on the back, and topped with vintage lace, of course. And here we've got a double doily pocket, and I've just got these two tags inside. Just did some collaging in here and stamping, and this image here. Paper punched bottoms here, and some stamping again on that one. And this is what the pocket looks like with nothing in it. It's just very simple. And I've just attached a bulb pin and a little locket, heart locket, that does open and close. So you could definitely put more tags in here if you wanted. There's plenty of room. And it's probably not going to go back in there nicely, so I'm just going to leave it right there. And again, we've got the vintage lace applique sewn onto the side, and the doily flap, and then the inside cover in the back, which has some beautiful vintage lace on the top and bottom. And look at all that beading. Isn't that stunning? That's all hand beaded. Just remarkable. And then my logo there, Vintage Elegance Inspiration. And back into this pocket with some beautiful vintage lace. And again, here's a close look at what I've done. I've left a space here so you can tie the ribbon closure, and it's held together with an eyelet. So that is journal number 1, and she is already spoken for. And then we've got this darling one. This was my second one. I made it a different way. I left all the sides open and then just did the batting, layered it all together, and then stitched around, and then did top stitching as well, just to give it a more finished look. This has a doily wrapped all the way around, front to back, and then I've covered it, the muslin, with vintage lace, beautiful soft vintage lace, some metal buttons sewn into the spine. Excuse me. Similar closure with the eyelets and the sari silk in red. And we've got vintage lace sewn onto the side, drapes over. And now let's make sure I'm in center here. All right. So we've got a beautiful tag here, tied with the red sari silk topper, and a bulb pin and a wee button. And this goes all the way through, stamped on the back with the word love. Because I used red, I decided to go more with the Valentine's type theme. Very minimal though. We've got a beautiful belly band out of white lace, and the applique motif attached to the top. This is a small mini journal booklet, and I've attached it with the fibers trim. I think I can get this off. Just slide it off this time. And used vintage lace and antique lace on the bottom. Just sewed it onto wrapping paper. And then I've done some stamping on the inside, just a little bit. Tea-dyed papers. And then what I did with this one is I just ran machine stitching down the center. I don't really prefer that method. I prefer the pamphlet stitch rather, but I just wanted to do something different, so that's why I did it that way. And then we've got the double doily pocket here with 2 tags, vintage lace at the top and the sari silk at the top. Stamping on the back. And another beautiful little locket that opens and closes. This page has, I think this was like a napkin that I used, and then cut it into pieces, got tatting on the bottom, and I added this applique. This, I actually think I pulled off a dress that was made for me on the collar. It was my going away dress. And I just thought, well, I'll give the dress away because it's over 30 years old. Don't need it. Didn't need it then. But I kept the applique. So, yeah. That's something personal and special. This has a little tuck spot right on the side for a smaller tag if you like. Vintage lace topper and embellished on the side, and some stamping. There's the hand stitching of all the beads and sequins. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing, the amount of hours that it takes to do that. So here you can see the edge, all the layers, and it's open, whereas the first journal, all the seams are closed. Here's some lovely vintage lace and a beautiful pocket right here. Got all the beadwork and the embellishing on here. Gorgeous sari silk topper. It's even got some bling in it. And stamped on the back. And then this envelope, I just did a black lace belly band just to hold it together and give it some interest. And inside I've got this ancient, beautiful antique postcard. It was ripped out of a book, I'm sure. But isn't that beautiful? It's just amazing. It's in really good shape too. So this just goes back like so. You could, I realize you could put some kind of, you know, decoration on here, but I chose to just leave it the way it was. And that's with vintage sheet music there. Got another postcard. Beautiful. And that's a silk pocket. Some lovely vintage lace sewn on the side, and another snippet piece that's collaged together with a button, vintage button on the top. Love this, part of a doily or a table runner that I've cut in half. And some little metal buttons on the side with a bulb pin. And this tag, I didn't put a topper on because it sits under the flap here. Stamping and stitched with red thread. Beautiful. And here we've got the center of this signature. It has a panel of white vintage lace sewn all the way across. And then I just added the tatted doily here on the right. Run some vintage lace through the top. Added a little tiny tag and a polished bronze charm with a heart there. And another one of these envelopes that I made with just some stamping on the bottom. Lots of extra space for writing. You could probably add another tag or two in this spot too if you wanted to. And the tag on this side just has this beautiful red lace with sequins and some antique lace on the bottom, topped with this very beautiful sari fabric and the word love stamped on the back. Turn the page and we've got, this is the only color piece that I added onto the foundation for each journal, it just was so perfect here. And this little square is hand sewn onto the Battenberg lace doily underneath it. Here's some ticking fabric with vintage lace and the antique lace topper and eyelet, just very simple, and stamped on the back. Just left the selvage edge open here. This side we've got this beautiful, beautiful crocheted lace as a tuck spot. And I have sewn an additional piece of beaded and sequined embellished sari to the fabric that I used as the base. Love this fiber trim here as the topper, and stamped on the back. I just use heavier cardstock this time, and there is a lot of fraying with this kind of silk fabric. You know, that will happen, but I chose to do it this way rather than wrap them, because then I would have had to back the tags with some extra paper, and that would have made them a little bit bulkier, which I could have done, and I have done that system before. Just a different way of doing it. Here we've got some beautiful vintage lace that I've got as a side tuck, and I absolutely love this trim. It is just amazing. So beautiful. Here's our fibers again, and stamping on the back, red stitching. Very plain, very simple, but elegant. And this beautiful embroidered pocket doily I made into a pocket has a tag made out of ticking, red ticking, and I used the scrap of one of the other belly bands that I put on the tag as a topper here, and just did some stamping. So yep, lots of space for writing. And some lovely vintage lace on this side. Another beautiful red silk tag with this gorgeous textile trim on the top. Some vintage lace here and here. This vintage lace actually has a little pearl in it. And the bulb pin has a charm that says "Made with Love," stamped on the back with the word love. And of course, this is another pocket that you can use if you like. This doily here, I made into a pocket and just stitched in a few places. Fabric I used was some red ticking and some beautiful ruffled vintage lace, and then the coordinating silk that was left over from those tags as the topper here, stamped on the bottom. And that just sits in here nicely. So a hexagon tag, custom fit that pocket. Here we have our envelope page. Just making sure I'm in frame again. I love this fabric, so beautiful. I was actually watching a video this morning of a lady from Australia that made a needle keep, and she used a very similar fabric like this and just folded it in half, and then that was the edge of her book, this beautiful crochet trim. I thought that was a very clever idea. Here we've got a vintage applique that I attached to the front of the envelope. It's just fabric sewn right on top of one of the pages. Here I have used several layers of vintage lace and applique, some gold cheesecloth, and just stamped on the inside for some extra writing space. Love this paper, just gorgeous. And then I attached some beads and did the pamphlet stitch. Yeah, so this is what it looks like in the center. And that goes in the side pocket. And then here we've got another one of these stunning tags. I just love it. Love the fabric. And this trim, oh my gosh, it's velvet with the gold threads and beading and sequins. It's just remarkably beautiful. Vintage lace topper, a bulb pin, and just a little heart charm. And it again has my logo on it, Vintage Elegance Inspiration. So that's it. They're not They're not heavily adorned, other than with the whole focus here was to create something out of fabric. And I did these as a prototype so that I could learn how to do a fabric journal. And because there wasn't much out there in the way of tutorials, I decided to do a process video series so you could watch me learning as we go. And that's it. This is number 2 of my fabric journal. Thank you so much for watching and for staying with me and following along in this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you feel inspired to try something like this yourself. It's really not that difficult. You can use any fabric. You know, you could use sheets or pillowcases or cotton that you have, cut apart, and then add your lace on top of it. And if you don't have access to vintage lace, you can use modern lace. You will still have a beautiful, stunning, personalized, creative journal that you can use. Just add some beads and charms and any other bling that you like, and I know it will be beautiful. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more to come. Bye for now.